Hey everybody, it is Professor Steve and want to welcome you to this week's podcast. It is March Madness and I have the perfect guest. If you were the person or student who doesn't have the connections, really wants to get into sports but not really know what to do, this is the interview to listen to. Today I'm going to have my former student Joey Longo, who's going to talk about his path to becoming the assistant director for branding for the Big Ten Conference. I remember him as a student, and I remember him. He's what I would call a grinder, and he's worked really hard to get where he is. And so, if you need some encouragement, if you need some insight, if you want to see how it's done from somebody who didn't have all the connections, listen up. You'll enjoy this podcast. All right, let's go to the show.
Welcome to the First and 20 podcast, the podcast for college students trying to get into sports by talking to those in it. Here's your host, Steve Raquel.
Hey, everybody, it's Professor Steve Raquel, and you are on the First and 20 podcast. Today, I'm going to have one of my former students, Joey Longo. He is now the assistant director of branding for the Big Ten Conference up here in Chicago. So welcome to the show, Joey.
Thank you, Steve. Great seeing you.
Yeah, great seeing you again. I really wanted Joe. Do you want me to say Joe or Joey? What do you?
I kind of go by both professionally.
Okay.
I tend to introduce myself as Joe, but people who know me as Joey.
Okay, I can only say Joey, and I'm like,
you've earned the Joey right. So.
Thank you, appreciate it. I'm very excited because, of many of my students who got into sports marketing, Joey and I have kind of a long relationship, and also have, over the years, like just sit and talked and been kind of in the front row of both like his struggles and his successes, and just seeing how he has done really well for himself for a kid from Chicago who felt like, he just wanted to do something great. One of the greatest things I love is that on your LinkedIn profile, what does it say? It says a kid who made the league. Kid that made the league. I mean, that's awesome. Let's start out with, give us your background. Where'd you start? How'd you get an interest in sports? What did you start doing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the LinkedIn kind of sets me up perfectly there. My LinkedIn bio was originally a kid who wants to make the league. So that was my touch up when I finally got a big time job. But no, I started loving sports, obviously, as a kid, as most people do, just playing it and all that kind of stuff. But the joke that I always throw in there is that I saw my Italian family all under, 5'8", and I noticed I like pasta Sunday a little bit too much. So I knew the NFL wasn't going to be my destination by any means, but I also knew that there was other ways of getting into the sports industry and all that kind of stuff. So actually started off, I like to give credit to my junior high school. That was the first place I managed. Coach Cronin, Coach Esker kind of gave me my first go in the sports industry, just as your typical manager. But like you said, I always had bigger vision. So I started doing stats. I got a nickname, Stats by Joe, all that kind of stuff, continued it throughout high school. And then actually my senior year of high school, when I was writing, a blog for the boys on the team to read about themselves, to make them feel like they were, D1 athletes or NFL players. A few of my teachers ended up reading the blogs that I'd post on Twitter too. At that time, it actually was Twitter. So that they read it. And a few of my teachers told me that I had a gift for writing and journalism, and that led to me pursuing a journalism degree at the University of Illinois, which is why I ended up taking the PR class where I met you. At that time, I was an intern for the SID department in the intercollegiate athletics department at Illinois. So that's kind of where I started, but college quickly taught me, as it does with many people, that wasn't what I wanted to do, even if I was pretty good at it. So I kind of looked over when I was working a baseball shift, saw a girl named Erin McClafferty running, at the time Aaron Gibson, or now currently Aaron Gibson, at that time Aaron McClafferty, running music. And I said, hey, that seems like a pretty fun job. So I reached out to her, got my in on the marketing department at Illinois as well as a sophomore. And my first official game as a marketing person was Illinois versus Michigan in 2019. We were giving away orange pom-poms, and I was making even Michigan fans grab them on their way in to cover up the ugly maize logo that they had on their, quarter zips and jerseys and all that kind of stuff. So kind of made a name for myself as the big energetic guy and all that good stuff, and just slowly worked my way up as an intern. By the time I was a senior, I was lucky enough to graduate a semester early. So my final semester on campus, I was fully graduated, but kind of took that time just to intern. I also had a job over at Jimmy John's, just making some more money and all that kind of stuff. So the hustle never stops. got into 20 hours a week as opposed to the 10 that we actually get paid for, just kind of, learning the industry, learning the job, learning the role. And before the semester officially ended, Seth Cook, who was my kind of direct report as an intern, he was the actual oversight on the sports I was working with. He had left for a new job at New Mexico. So before the softball season ended, he was gone. And Joey Longo, who is the guy who gave me my first full-time job, brought me into his office and basically said, like, hey, as soon as Seth's out, we want you to take over softball. We want you to stay another year. We want you to be the softball guy next year and handle other stuff like Grange Grove, gymnastics, and just, help with the department overall. I believe at that time I was actually the most tenured person in the department other than Cassie, who oversees it all. So it was more or less him asking me to stick around and help him figure out Illinois because he had just gotten hired as well. But Joey Longo, still to this day, a true friend, a true mentor in my journey. So definitely want to give him a shout out, but got into being a full-time coordinator with Illinois at the end of the year. Obviously had a lot going out with Grange Grove and gymnastics, but was always looking forward to softball because for the first time in Illinois' history, Eichelberger Field was the home of the Big Ten softball tournament. Kind of just a place for me to make a name for myself and, show off to the entire conference how awesome Illinois does sports, especially softball. The girls over there and Coach Perry have quite the atmosphere. It's very different than the baseball atmosphere. Love the baseball team, but the energy at softball is just completely different. Did a good enough job that Logan Young, who is the sport admin for softball, she's like, hey, I want your scripts. I want your playlists. I want all the stuff that you did because I want to send that to other hosts to show them how to spruce up a Big Ten championship event when on campus. So for me at that time as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, I guess, at that time, it was just a big honor that the Big Ten even recognized me. And that's kind of when I hit my first struggle, I would definitely say. That was around the time where I actually called you over to Bielefeld. We sat in the Hall of Fame room and we just talked about, personally, I wanted to move back home to Chicago. I missed my family. Another joke that I always tell people is that I was at McDonald's eating a fillet of fish on Easter, and then my dad sent me a video of them grilling up lamb chops, and I realized life was much better at home. As much as I loved Illinois and the athletics, Champaign was just getting to a point in my life that I wanted to be back in my hometown in the big city, back up north, everything you want to say along those lines. And you helped me make the decision to come back home, which at first, very much a struggle. I believe I was unemployed for about 6-7 months. I had some part-time jobs, luckily with like the Bears, the Blackhawks. I was a substitute teacher at my high school for a bit there just to make some money and make ends meet. And obviously shout out mom and dad for letting me come back home and not have to pay rent in Chicago, which is definitely the biggest challenge when people come back home. But my first breakthrough once I was back home in Chicago, ironically, wasn't even in Chicago. Because of my background helping with some graphics at Illinois, my marketing and game presentation stuff, the Rockford Ice Hogs gave me a call. They had an open position for a senior coordinator role. Chris Toltzman, another guy I definitely want to give a shout out to, brought me in for a total of 4 months. He mentored me, showed me the ropes. Obviously, minor league sports, you get hands-on very quick. You learn a lot very quickly and you do a lot very quickly. And then I started about a week after their season opener. 2 months before the season ended, I get a phone call from Logan, who said, hey, there's a job opening up at the Big Ten. I think you'd be a good fit for it. I saw it on LinkedIn. I applied, ended up getting an interview with Satvik Patel, our HR guy here at the Big Ten. Me and him hit it off from the jump. He actually has a nickname for me, which is Jersey Joe. I have never been to the state of New Jersey, but I guess my Italianness really, really poured through there in the first interview. Didn't help that I had a Tommy DeVito jersey. So, it just really solidified me as Jersey
You
Joe.
wore that to the interview?
I did not wear it. I actually wore a Big Ten full zip, not this one, that Katie Taylor gave me after the tournament. But as soon as he said Jersey Joe, I got up and grabbed it from my closet, which just completely derailed the interview. But at some point, the interview became more about us vibing than it did about my qualifications at that.
Wow. Yeah. It's, I love hearing the story because it was a kid that made the league. And I remember being in the it was a Hall of Fame room and just sitting and you're like, hey, what do I do? Do I go home? Do I stay here? And I'm like, go home. Just go home. Go and figure it out. Like you have parents, you want to be home, and I remember the other call when you're like, yeah, I got this opportunity, but it's in Rockford. Like I have to travel like an hour and a half, I don't know, every day or whatever. And I go, yeah, put in the work, man. You're just, it will lead to something. And the great part that I love about your story is just you've epitomized what I call grinding. You didn't have the contacts. A lot of this stuff has happened because of your individual efforts starting in junior high and then allowing that to grow. By the way, when I came back after we saw each other at the airport, I noticed that there's an all-star game in Rockford. coming
Yep.
up. I don't know if you saw that. Um,
Yeah, I
so
believe
yeah,
it was
I mean,
nights actually from when this was recorded for everybody watching.
okay. So the what was I at Illinois? I mean, I remember going to football and basketball games, and I'd either text you or I'd see. I'm like, up, he's there. Like you got to do some really cool things. Like I know that you were really tight with the DJ guy there, and you were hyping up the crowd. You're on the screen. Like, how do you? I guess the bigger question is for those people who or students who are trying to get their foot in the door. How important or how valuable can these, what seems like mundane and grindy kind of experiences help?
In my opinion, it not only helps, I think that's really where it's all made, especially for someone like me that you said don't have the contacts and don't have the luxury of being already connected. Obviously, if you have those connections, use them and build your way up. But overall, I think the sports industry, like a lot of other industries, but definitely in the sports industry, it's about a lot of work. It's about being there a lot of hours. And at a certain point, I see my coworkers more than I see my family, and I live with my mom and dad to this day. So I'm here from 8:30 in the morning until 6:30 p.m. and then between dinner and working out and all that, I'm in bed by 10. So, I'm at the Big Ten office more than I'm in my own home. So I don't know. It's one of those things that if you fall in love with the grind, I approach my career very similarly as an athlete. And that's why I always called myself the kid who made the league, is that it's the little stuff, it's the practice every single day that's going to make you good, not just going off on game day. And obviously, for us, game day isn't the big payoff day. A lot of the times it is a lot of the small, nitty gritty grinding stuff. Some days you're, making sure that the tunnel stays clear so that way the police don't yell at the marketing team. Some days it's standing next to DJ Ted and making the entire stadium, turn up and get lit. But, if you can find love and enjoyment in each one of those steps, you not only become, valuable, but I think just mentally you stay in it. You stay as that fresh guy. And we have a 2-week tournament last year. We were in Indianapolis for 2 weeks, and we obviously love Indianapolis, but at a certain point, it loses its luster when you're there for 17, 18 straight days. And I like being the guy that when everybody's in the staff room, kind of, hitting that wall and not wanting to be there anymore and just hoping that the game gets over with, I walk in with that same smile that I did on the, day one, where we were just tipping off and we were so excited for the tournament. And I don't know, I'm just a guy that if you put sports in front of me, I'm going to have a good time. And if I have to do something small, nitty gritty, I'm going to do it, because
Yeah.
I'd rather be at an arena than working, a typical corporate job or busting, doing manual labor and all that kind of stuff. I'm just not that kind of guy. So
No.
you put me in an arena, you give me a role, I'll do it with pride.
Well, the combination I love with you is the fact that you're a grinder, and in a sense, you have learned how important networking is. I mean, just listening to you in your interviews, hey, I have to give a shout out to this person. I have to give a shout out to that person. I think that for the sports industry, especially getting and growing, is a lot about network and a lot about like not burning bridges, and your future growth is really in a sense tied to how hard you work and the network that you create behind the grind, right? Is that since you worked tirelessly and didn't do any, and you did all these things, sometimes without money, people notice that. And so when opportunities come, they think about you. I don't know if you felt that way or feel that way about your growth.
I definitely feel that way, and that's why I'm taking some of this time to shout out certain people. I'm glad you brought that up, just because, like you said, I really started off with this. My parents were, my whole family is blue collar. I was actually one of the first people to get a college degree. I'm one of the first people to get a white collar job, and I'm definitely the first person in my family to do the sports route. And a lot of it just came from, obviously, my family supported me each step of the way. My mom, my dad, my brother Gio, everybody along the way. But most importantly, it was everybody who I worked with along the way kind of saw the same thing you saw, where it's passion, it's grinding, it's all that stuff that I love. And I don't do it for the recognition. I do it because that's genuinely how I am. I'm a genuine person. But each step of the way, there was somebody to help me learn, help me, fine tune as a professional. I will definitely say my professionalism was not there when I got to Illinois. My SID mentor, my SID direct report, can definitely speak on that.
Okay,
I
good.
remember coming back sophomore year, and I was like, "Hey, I'm back on campus. Let me know when you need me." And she's like, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna bring you back. Like you just didn't have like the chops for it, the fine tuning." At that time, I was a little, a little piffed. But currently, I look back and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that kid showed up to a baseball game wearing a Chief shirt. That probably wasn't a great look."
I'm
No,
okay.
it's been a lot of people along the way, and obviously they're mentors, they're coworkers, they're colleagues. But at a certain point, like I said, you spend so much time that they're friends. I don't have this job without, helping me, getting my footing in Champaign. I don't have this job without Joey Aliotta and Cassie Arner building me into the marketer that I am today. I definitely don't have this job, or at least I'm not as good at it if I don't have Chris Holtzman over in Rockford kind of giving me the reins to make all the video board graphics and, do bigger stuff than just working off a template. So currently I have a phenomenal group. I'm going to do some more shout outs just because I have the stage. So Jess Lay, Robin Gentis, and then obviously my direct report, Chris Altoff, and our great CMO, Mary Beck, like each one of them. I saw your face spot. He's another Illini, but each one of them.
Is that the son of John Altoff?
The one that worked at State Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah, John's currently retired, but his son does work with me. So.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
That's
awesome.
So it was actually funny because when I first started, our insurance partner was State Farm. So our branding guy and our rep from our sponsor was father and son. But no, each one of them have been absolutely great, bringing me in, welcoming me into the team, building me up and making me a better person and a better marketer. But I know whether I stay at the Big Ten forever or I move on, those people are always going to be in my corner. And they've already expressed to me like, hey, my dream is always to work for the Bears. That's kind of like the fever dream type of thing. If they said, hey, if a Bears job opens up that's right for you, like, don't hesitate. Mary, actually, I will quote her. She said, if you leave us and I could have done something to get you a better job, I will find you and I will kick your ass. Okay. So not sure if this podcast allows swearing, but when she told me that, I realized I had the right person in my corner.
Well, that's really cool. Couple things there. One, I want to first go into, what do you do? Like, what does the associate director of branding do? I mean, that if I looked at all of your experience, it's like there's things here and there that I think, oh, okay, but branding for all the schools, all of the Big Ten Conference, that's big. I've seen you pictures, right, at the national championship game, at NCAA tournaments, at national championship games for other sports too, and it's kind of like I guess you have to be on site, to ensure the branding is consistent, right?
Yeah. So what I do is one of my least favorite questions because it's so hard to explain. But luckily, you actually can understand some of it. When I explain it to my mom, it's not quite as easy. But very, very quickly, I'll do my best to keep it tight. But Chris and I handle all things creative design that come out of the Big Ten. So all of like the social templates you're seeing when you come to the United Center in March for the basketball tournaments, all the signage that you see. We may not be directly creating it, but we're at least overseeing the production of it. Anything with this logo right here, whether it's on merchandise, whether it's on a championship ring for Indiana, we have to make sure that it fits within our guidelines. So for example, on this, black sweater, if this was a black B, that'd be incorrect because we want it all visible. Logo policing, creative design, and then game day production is kind of my specialty and kind of what I've been leaning into the last couple of years. So when we had football champ game down in Indy, the parachute t-shirt drop that we were doing, the streamers that we're shooting off, the DJs, the hosts, that all filters through Chris and myself. I've actually been taking more of a lead on the production, which has been awesome because, like I said, that's my bread and butter. It's a lot of that kind of stuff is my day to day, and then just overall general marketing, branding, buying billboards, making sure that the Big Ten spot represents all the schools equally, all that kind of stuff. And we do help oversee a lot of the school branding as well. Obviously, if it's just an Illinois mark, my guy Marty Kaufman takes care of that. But when it's all 18 of the schools behind me, all on one thing, we have to make sure that they're all sized appropriately. They're all colored appropriately. They're using the digital version of something and not the print version when it's going up on the internet. So it's a lot of stuff that I had no idea happened until I got to the Big Ten, to be honest. And then all the fun stuff is kind of just professional growth for the most part. So I've been at the last two CFPs. That's more just because we have Fan Central there and we have to have our Big Ten tent with our giveaways and our poster boards and all the photo ops that we do. So that's more of our reason for being there. I haven't worked with CFP or anything like that directly yet. That's in the works. So, a little teaser for the fans out there. But I'm lucky enough that I'm in a department that touches so many areas that we have a responsibility to be there. It's never go to Miami for fun and watch the game on Monday. You land on Thursday, you set up, you work 12-hour days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you get to go to the game after working a 12-hour shift on Monday. So
if you go to the game, I've said in other podcasts, like the game tends to be the last thing you want to go to after working so hard to get it up. Right.
100%. For me, there is still some of that payoff and the little kid in me that comes out. So like the nice part about the CFP is that we get to just sit in the stands and watch the game and pretend to be an Indiana fan, even though I am a proud Illini. But I had the merch on and I was hitting the Hoosiers chant and all that kind of stuff. So it's just great getting out there with Big Ten fans. Obviously, IO last year and just celebrating, victories across the conference. Hopefully, we can hit some ILLs one day, but we'll got to build up a little bit more for that.
A little bit. We're going the right direction.
That's it. Yeah. Bielema's got it right. It's been way more fun to watch them since I've left Illinois than my time there. That's all I'll say on that. But No, a lot of the extra events are just me being, a big personality guy, our department touching a lot of stuff. And then a lot of people need help at the Big Ten. A lot of people think that we're this giant corporation. There's 60 of us total, and that's across all departments, and that includes our commissioner. So, when our community and impact team needs help, I'm there. When our operations team needs help, I'm there. That just comes from my grinding background. But yeah, it's a
Wow.
lot what I do. I wish I could put into a one sheeter and just send it out to everyone because it's a lot easier than trying to explain it.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, and arguably you're in the best conference in the country, right? In terms of the quality, the championships, all these things. And that must be fun for you too.
Oh, so fun. I was gonna say, I think at this point it's no longer arguable. I think we need to bring home a trophy at the start of April, and that'll make us feel a lot better. But the trifecta shirts got a lot of love on Twitter. And for all the people who were talking about how no one would buy it, we sold out. So
Really?
oh
Okay.
yeah, all sizes. So I
Mm.
think overall the Big Ten is just that conference that has every eye on us. We're a powerhouse in just about every sport, and I mean, especially once we added the 4 West Coast schools. I mean, we're a coast to coast powerhouse across the board. So it's been absolutely.
Personally, this is my personal desire. I get all the championship stuff. It's always good to have it. I really would love to bring home a Learfield trophy, which is overall strength of of a university and winning different things. So all the Olympic sports, all that fun stuff. I think that would be more meaningful for me. Because Stanford does it. Like Stanford wins it almost every year.
Yeah, Stanford and UNC tend to be the top two
Yeah.
teams.
Right. And I think it just, in terms of sports, it just makes your college so much stronger. It's not a Bill Belichick, but that's a different topic. Hey, speaking about the Bears, if they go to Indiana, you okay? Like traveling the hour and a half to get there?
I feel like if I did an hour and a half to get to Rockford for minor league hockey, I can do it the opposite way for the Bears. I was post Kevin Warren. I've been a full Tony Petitti hire.
Well, that's good to know. Let's see here. Do you guys have internships in the summer?
Yes, we tend to open about 1 or 2 each year. They
Okay.
are very unique to come by. It's not like a yearly rotational thing that gets posted at the same time every year, but
Okay.
we tend to hire one that's kind of like a rotational intern where they kind of bounce around between departments and just
Okay.
see where they can help. So, for example, Mary Kate last year was great with the operations team and helped with
Okay.
the community impact team. But then there are times where specific departments will ask HR for a interns. This past summer, we had Grace Coyle. She helped out our law department. She's a law student in Minnesota.
Is that Pat Coyle's daughter?
Yes, yes. The athletic director's daughter worked for us. So it does take a little bit of chops. Our current intern, Alex Doracco, she was a Michigan softball player who transferred to Oklahoma. So she also, has some big background as opposed to, your typical applicant. But no, we tend to have 1 or 2 interns each year. It's just pretty much need based.
Yeah, sure. So let's see here. I want to make sure. What would you say? I mean, we talked a little bit about this, but I think you have a unique perspective, and I know I still have students all the time asking, "Hey, I love being in the sports. What advice would you give students who probably like junior year who really want to go into sports but are kind of like you, not on the connections. They're just trying really hard to figure out like what makes sense, what's going to lead into the thing that gets them to the Big Ten conference, right?
I think the biggest thing that I can recommend, and to the couple students that you've sent my way, this is always the first thing that I kind of lead with. If you haven't already, get involved on campus. Overall, campuses not only need the help, but like they're going to bring you in and they're going to be teaching you things that you won't learn in the classroom. Personally, obviously, Illinois, world class institution, and I am a much smarter human because I went there. But I feel like a lot of what I do on a day to day basis really came from experience. So, being in the office and working more hours than I was getting paid for, I never recommend that. Obviously, in today's world with needs for money, but if you are able to, especially when you're on campus, maybe you have a lighter schedule and stuff like that. Work the hours. Put in the grind. And like I said, athletic departments are always hiring; they're always in need. So that's kind of a good place to start, and it's a really good place to build your network. So, like for me, obviously I have my intern friends that they're my lifelong friends now. I kind of treat them as my college buddies, but there also is a lot of people that I look back and I'm like, wow, I was in the same room as them. I got to know them and a few of them became my friends beyond just Joey and Cassie. I mean, even if you think of like Kevin Mitchell with Varsity
Yeah.
I helped him out a lot.
Yeah.
He was the Rose Bowl captain for Illinois. Like that's somebody that when I was an 8-year-old watching the Rose Bowl, I was like, man, that guy's so cool. And then me and him became buddies and all that kind of stuff.
That's not hard to do. Kevin is a very affable guy. He has the same type of personality you do. Like,
Yeah, 100%. You just got to be in the same room as him and you'll end up loving him. He'll end up loving you.
Yes. That's
But
awesome.
yeah, no, getting in the department is nice. It builds your network, it builds your abilities, it builds your skills. But once you leave college, and this is kind of something that I struggled with more, is don't ever think something is below you or not worth it. Not that I was, super cocky with myself in that sense, but there were a lot of jobs out there, whether it's the team that it was for or the name of the role or the title or the salary, that I kind of looked at and didn't even apply for. That looking back, I'm like, man, all those months that I was unemployed, I could have been doing that. So Rockford, example, one of them, I took the interview just because I wanted interview experience, but I didn't take it seriously because I'm like, it's in Rockford. I don't want to work for a minor league team in Rockford. And then I get there and I fell in love with Chris and I fell in love with the staff there. And I gave it a chance and it ended up building me into who I am today. So you never know, especially when you're a 22-year-old, 23-year-old coming out of college or a 20-year-old still in college. Like, you don't know what's a good opportunity yet. And you don't know what opportunity is going to lead to another opportunity that actually makes the break. So I don't
Yeah.
know how long I would have been an Ice Hogs employee for if I would have had to stick there, but it definitely, paved the path for me to get to the Big Ten and be the leading candidate for the job that I have today.
Well, and I think I've told you, I think you have a high ceiling. Like for you to be where you are right now. Now, keep in mind, things change all the time, right? But you've done what I would consider like the hard work to get to where you are. Where somebody in your position could have gotten it like 5 years later, because they started later. So I think you have an advantage of which a lot of people don't, like getting involved, using those experiences early to help create that path, which I appreciate. Not everybody can do it, but it shows that it does, like everything that you've done has folded into who you are today.
Oh, 100%. Each step mattered. Every stepping stone along the path is what got me to the end of the bridge. Yeah, there are times where obviously like it's human nature to compare yourself to other people, especially for someone like myself. Illinois has a lot of kids with, bright futures paid for them when they get on campus in Champaign. So it's very easy to look around and think that you're falling behind. Then it's very easy to look around and also think that you're way ahead of where you are. It's nice to just, keep your head level set as much as you can and keep enjoying the grind. Cause like you said, for me, I'm super young. I'm going into my third year. I just hit 2 years last week at the Big Ten.
Oh my gosh.
And it's crazy because when I tell my mom that, she's like, "Oh, when are you getting a raise? When are you getting a new title bump and all that?" I'm like, "Mom, I'm still at an age where people are just finishing up grad school. Like that's
Yeah.
not in the plans yet."
Yeah. I mean, I did when I remember when you got that job, I was like, that's cool. Like that makes sense. But it was one like, I don't know anybody else who I think could do it at that age. There's a uniqueness in terms of your background. Well, how if somebody is interested in just learning more, is there a way for them to connect with you? Would LinkedIn be the best way to do it?
Yeah, LinkedIn, just because I know that it's a professional thing and you're not just, DMing me, trying to get at me. I get it. But no, LinkedIn is a great way. My email is also on the Big Ten website. So it's pretty easy. It's my Longo at big10.org. They keep it nice and easy for us. But I am very much a person who remembers not having anyone. So if I need to be that person for somebody I've never met, I will. And especially if you said Steve sent you, that's all I need to hear for it to be worth it for me. So
Yep.
LinkedIn, it's just my name, Joe Longo, and then my email is jlongo at big10.org.
Stats by Joe. Stats by Joe too.
Stats by Joe. I think it's actually linked.in/stats by Joe if you want to go
Yeah.
directly in the URL bar there.
Well, thank you for your time. It's good to catch up with you. It's always great to hear how a student has kind of made the league, right? And I'm actually looking forward for the next couple of years, right? In terms of like, I think you'd be very comfortable in the Big Ten for a while, but if you continue to grind and do well, who knows? We may see you in a different position in a bigger stage, which I think you'll be doing great. And then I'll have to like really say that I know you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Steve. I don't even have a 5-year plan right now. I'm just enjoying the now and definitely loving it the Big Ten. But if for some reason the Bears let Ben Johnson go, then maybe I'll have to switch over.
There you go. I'll end with this question. How
Yes.
many times do you go to Fogo de Chao?
I've been there once, and it was for a non-work related thing. My buddy had his
No.
birthday party there. We know the valet guys very well from having to leave and see
Sure.
them every day, but we unfortunately do not get a discount with them. They just pay us rent.
For everybody who doesn't know, it's in the build. It's literally in the building, and so that would be way too tempting.
The
Way
amount
too
of people
tempting.
who have almost walked into our office thinking that was the Fogo door, incredible.
That's great. All right. Hey, thanks, Joey. It's good to see you, and thanks for your time. I always like to finish off saying, just remember, if you want to go to sports, you are the quarterback of your future. This podcast is trying to help you create the best game plan for you to win. So thanks, everybody, for being here, and thanks again, Joey, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Steve.